Welcome to the First Cut Podcast live on CBS Sports Network. This is your mega preview pod for this week's US Open. We've got you covered. We've got your eyes and ears on the ground, storylines, and even who is definitely going to win this golf tournament. Joining me to break it all down, Patrick McDonald is here. Patrick, good day.
Gentlemen, good day to you. Nice to have the U.S. Open back on the East Coast after that debacle last year. Should be firm, fast, and I'm excited to hear the insights KP's got for us from the grounds.
He's already wound up. Mark Immelman is here. Mark, good to see you.
How's it, boys? Listen, I am so excited that roles are reversed here, and I'm at home watching TV, and KP's on the ground. Loving this. Good to be with you guys.
That's right. Kyle Porter rounds us out for right now. And KP, yes, you are there. You are coming to us from Pinehurst. You're in town. You're seeing things. What's the sense from the grounds?
Yeah, it's been awesome so far. I too am glad that roles are reversed, and I'm out here for once, and Mark gets to enjoy the work from home life. It's been. I'm glad that Patrick brought it up last year because that's the thing that I keep thinking about is how much different this year feels. Even it's only Wednesday, right? But how much different this year already feels than last year. You get to Pinehurst, and it's just sickos everywhere, just golf nuts all over the place in the village, in town, at the. I mean, this place looks like I was walking with Brooks Koepka and his group, and then Justin Thomas and Scotty Scheffler's group this morning. It looks like how Friday and Saturday at LACC look. I mean, it is just it's packed out here. The balls are bouncing all over the place. It's already a really good atmosphere, and it's only Wednesday. We haven't got the tournament started yet.
Yeah, we are less than 24 hours out from this event starting. So Patrick, put a bow on this. What LACC was what? A little too sleepy for you?
Oh, just the Hollywood elites out there like Will Arnett, Jason Bateman. We don't need those guys doing all the U.S. Open content. And then you think about the actual course, right? Easiest U.S. Open ever, lowest 36 hole cut ever, most sub 70 rounds ever, most sub 65 rounds ever. So it's nice to actually test these boys for once.
We'll see about that, KP. I'm going to bounce this back to you here real quick because we have now heard throughout the week. We've heard comments. We've heard Tiger Woods say he foresees guys playing ping pong. We heard Rory McIlroy say this is much better than just having thick rough everywhere. And then from the USGA presser this morning, there is an expectation that these greens are going to be running at 13 and a half on the stimp. If you are tuning in and that is a foreign sentence to you, that is very, very fast.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily fast. There were two things that I watched this morning that got the juices going a little bit. So I was on six, and I watched Scotty and JT putting to this to the where the pin is today. They were kind of above the hole, and they were just kind of trying to slide these putts down, and they were running forever. I mean, it looked like run out like in a fairway. How far they were running out, it was unbelievable. At one point, Scotty threw what looked like I don't know, something like chapstick or something that was kind of like a cylinder over to this spot on the green, and it just kept rolling. It just kept like sliding like down this hill, and so that was exciting. And then Brooks Koepka on the ninth hole, we watched him for about 10 minutes, and it's kind of this right pin today, and he had about a 4-footer, maybe a 6-footer for birdie. He hit a great tee shot on. It's a par three, number 9. He's not even lined up at the hole. He's lined up toward the grandstands, which is about, what is that, 45 degrees, 50 degrees the other way. And I mean, if the putt's 6 feet, it traveled like 9, and he made it. It was an incredible putt, but after that, he goes down to the bottom of the hill and putts all the way back. Like he goes in front of the hole, putts all the way back up, and tries to get balls to feed back down into the hole. I mean, he's putting it like 25 feet past the hole, letting it feed back down. Fans are going crazy. U.S. Open, baby. This is awesome so far. It's so good.
We've got 3 days of prep, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in which the lights have been shined onto Pinehurst number 2, Mark. And there's a very fine line when it comes to major championship setups, when it comes to USGA and US Open setups. You know, the refrain that you're going to hear from the USGA is tough but fair. But like I said, that is a very fine line between that and we've lost the golf course.
Yeah, you're so right. Because the USGA want to defend par, right? And the truth is, when you start to get green speeds, it's 13 and above, because that is lightning fast. And that's on a level lie, bearing in mind, because here at Pinehurst, there are very few level areas on these putting greens. So you could face something upwards of 14 on the stimp. And when you start to get speeds like that, it's almost like the friction between the golf ball and the green gets removed, and you'll see balls almost sidewind down the grass on the way to the targets, because the balls are hit so softly. You'll hear players say, well, I tried to start that on this line, but the ball slid off too early because just of the glassiness of the surfaces. So to your fine line, if the USGA have any sort of a day with low humidity in the air, that golf course could turn just into a banshee in the blink of an eye. So it's got to be very careful how you set it up. I expect you'll see them spritzing the greens once in a while just to keep a little bit of green on them, because if you get just a quick change in the weather and the moisture diminishes, these surfaces will be impossible. Because look, remember when this golf course was designed by Donald Ross back in the day? It was for green speeds of 6, 7. That's why you could have these slopes. Now with modern day agronomy, it's been reworked, of course, and it's a championship venue. But a golf course's best defense to me is undulation. And this place, it's not up and down like Augusta National, but the green complexes to me are reminiscent thereof, just because of all the humps and hollows and valleys and such. And you can get a ball rolling a long time if you're on the wrong side of one of those hills.
We just showed the graphic there, Patrick. It was 4 golfers have ever broken par at a U.S. Open at Pinehurst #2. So as Mark is mentioning, the USGA trying to defend par, they've historically done a very good job at protecting that number.
Yeah, they have. And there's been, I know we joke about the Phil Mickelson moment from Shinnecock a few years ago. There's the John Daly moment at Pinehurst as well in 2005, where he whacked the ball that was coming back down to his feet. I don't think we're going to get there just because of those moments like Shinnecock, right? I think they're going to continuously apply water to these greens. And like Mark said about the surfaces of the green being so slick, Tiger even said in his press conference, there might be a moment on Saturday or Sunday where someone puts their putter down to put a ball mark down and it slips out under them because they're so slick, kind of like you see at Bay Hill from time to time. And so I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for Brooks Koepka to play feet of break on 7-footers and trickle them in. I mean, that's what the U.S. Open's all about. It's about using every club in your bag. It's about par being a good score, and it's about being a mental test. And it seems early in the week that Pinehurst is going to present all of those.
Par being a good score, a mental test, everything in between. KP, we're going to let you get back to the action here. We're going to get you back out on the golf course so we can look forward to that great insight throughout the week. But before we let you go, you've taken it in. We're 6 months from the start of the year. This is major championship #3. Who's going to win the U.S. Open?
Well, I picked Scotty Scheffler, and I'm sticking with Scotty Scheffler very bravely to get his 6th win of 2024. I think what's interesting, I was talking to some people today out on the golf course, and you get out here and you kind of see it from afar, and you think about it from afar, and you're like, I don't understand how somebody that's not a top 10 player could win. And I was talking to some people today, and it's like, well, the margins are almost, the landing spots are almost so small that everybody's going to miss them. And so if you're a really good wedge player, if you're really good around the greens, if you have really good speed like Martin Keimer did in 2014, even if you're not a good wedge player, you're going to have an opportunity to put 16 pars together, 15 pars together, and go shoot a score. So I almost feel like it strangely like can hurt some of the better players because the margins are almost so small that it doesn't properly separate like the very best iron players from everybody else. I don't know if that's sounding the way that I'm meaning it, but I think that part is really interesting. So just having been out here, Rick, I'm actually more bullish on somebody that's like a 60th or 80th or 100th. having a really good week and maybe challenging a Scheffler, a Morikawa, or Xander for this championship.
Well, while you're out there walking around today, just let this go through your head. Jordan Spieth is 65-1 to win this golf tournament. Maybe he's the guy a little bit farther down the board that you're looking into. Kyle, thank you very much. Get back out there. Enjoy the week. I'm sure we'll be hearing and reading much more from you, and we're looking forward to it. The rest of us are just getting started. There is a lot more conversation coming up on the First Cut podcast right after these words. Welcome back to the First Cut podcast live on CBS Sports Network. And gentlemen, I want to dive into the big three. The number one player in the world, the number two player in the world, number three player in the world, all going out together off the first tee at 1:14 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. That, of course, Scottie Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy. Patrick, let's start with Scottie Scheffler. All roads lead to Scottie in professional golf right now. He is a big favorite to win this golf tournament, plus 280. That implies he's going to win this about 25% of the time. That's an outrageous number in professional golf, let alone at a major championship. And it's kind of bearing itself out. He's won 5 of his last 8 starts. Scottie is firing on all cylinders right now.
He is, and it seems like his floor is maybe a top 5 finish, which sounds absolutely ridiculous to say. You see a couple runner-up finishes. You think about all the extracurriculars he had to deal with at the PGA Championship. If you take that out, Steven Yeager and Davis Riley are the 2 players who have stared Scottie Scheffler in the face and defeated him. And you take him to a course like Pinehurst at the U.S. Open where, mind you, he finished 3rd at LACC last year, had a chance, finished runner-up to Matt Fitzpatrick at the Country Club as well, had a chance. And he comes to Pinehurst number 2, which is probably a fantastic course fit for Scottie Scheffler. It's going to ask you to hit it long and straight off the tee. Guess what? When you combine driving distance and driving accuracy, the number 1 player in the world, shocker, Scottie Scheffler. You think about the long iron play that is required, needing to hit it high into these small landing areas. Shocker. The best long iron player in the world is Scottie Scheffler. And you think about the green and regulation percentage, only hitting these 56, 57% of the time in 2014. You need to have a good around the green game. Shocker once again, perhaps underrated, which is weird to say in Scottie Scheffler's game, is that chipping, is that around the green game. He's top 5 in the world in that regard as well. So it's setting up perfectly for Scottie Scheffler to possibly claim his first U.S. Open.
Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit deeper because here are the places that he's won 5 times this year, Mark, and they're pretty stout. Bay Hill, TPC Sawgrass, Augusta National, Harbortown, Muirfield Village. How does Pinehurst number 2 set up, maybe compared to some of those other golf courses for Scottie this week?
Well, I feel like they kind of ask the same questions, Rick, and to go sort of deeper than the numbers that Patrick shared. You know, the one thing about Scottie's ball striking and all of those venues you talk about, especially Bay Hill, especially Augusta National, they ask you to hit your irons not just accurately, but the right distance. And if you look at him, the way he flights irons, the distance control that he has, I would almost say that that's the calling card of his game. And then you add to that, because like KP points out, because of the nature of the greens, they're like upside down saucers, if you will, like turtlebacks there at the end of the fairways. You could just miss by a few feet, catch the wrong side of a slope, and all of a sudden the ball's down there in a chipping area. He is really underrated around the greens, and the technique he employs is very simple. And you're going to see a lot of golfers with these conditions going simple. They won't be like immense flop shots and stuff going on. It's going to begin to become a little bit of a ground game. But on the other side of that, I feel like you can hit a good shot, you get on the wrong side of a slope, the ball wanders away from the hole. That's when frustration begins to set in. And you know that word that all the pros will throw at you, they talk about patience and being patient. I would argue that Scottie is probably the most patient golfer on the PGA Tour right now. He's certainly the most present golfer. If you watch him, how he bounces back from indiscretion, like last week at the Memorial, he made a triple bogey. I would have bet the farm on the fact that the guy wouldn't do that, but he makes triple. Shortly thereafter, he rattles off a couple birdies. Now, I feel like birdies may be in short supply, but the one thing Scottie isn't in short supply of is patience and wherewithal and the ability just to hang in there and stick around and kind of win the war of attrition, because that's what it's going to be. So, you can look at the ball striking and you can look at the putting and all that sort of stuff. This week, it's going to wear these players down mentally and emotionally. And at the end of it all, I feel like the last man standing is going to be tough here and here. And Scotty Scheffler is tough in both those areas.
He's the number one player in the world. He is our recent winner on the PGA Tour, but he's not, Patrick, our most recent major champion. That belongs to Xander Schauffele, who got the job done at Valhalla. And now he enters his first major championship as part of the One Club, now looking to double that total and make it 2. Xander's playing some incredibly confident and incredibly great golf right now.
He would. And if it wasn't for Scotty Scheffler doing what Scotty Scheffler's doing, we'd be talking a lot more about Xander Schauffele and what Xander Schauffele's doing. As you're seeing on the screen, he has 7 top 15 finishes in 7 U.S. Open appearances. Only 2 other guys in golf can say they've done that. Walter Hagen and Bobby Jones. I mean, what a trio that is. What a duo to be a part of. You see Jack Nicklaus has the record with 12 in a row. I think Xander has a very legitimate shot to push that 7 to 8 this week. I know the start at Jack's place wasn't great from tee to green. He was pretty sloppy. Not the usual ball striking we see from someone like Xander Schauffele, especially in 2014. But you know what he did? He got around the golf course effectively. He plotted his way around. He finished inside the top 10 still without his A game. And that's got to give him a bolster of confidence on top of that PGA Championship win, of course. So I think the U.S. Open's a great setup in general for Xander Schauffele, as the temperament, the wherewithal that Mark was talking about with Scotty Scheffler. I think Xander totally has that as well. And I think he has the distance and accuracy off the tee. We talk about the added distance he's gained with Chris Como and his new trainer. He's also added a lot of accuracy off the tee as well. And so I think that's going to be a big benefit for Xander. And I think, honestly, he's going to give it a good chance. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, except maybe the difficulty of winning back-to-back majors, which, of course, is pretty large.
I think you're preaching, Reverend McDonald, over there. I'll tell you personally an anecdote from my point of view. A few friends and me got together and we had a little draft for this week's US Open, because it's week off, so we can do that sort of stuff. And I happened to get the first pick. And I was a little torn, really, just a little torn between picking Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele. And the golfers I was doing this with, these are all elite golfers that know the game intimately. And I went Scheffler, and the very next pick was Xander Schauffele, because, as you point out, he has the entire skill set. He is a 5-tool guy. And the thing about Xander, he's awfully resilient to me, because if you look at the run that he went on the way to eventually his major championship victory, it was a lot of success, a number of top 10s, but he was fielding question after question after question all the times, like, when are you going to do this? Xander, you fell short again. Xander, and he just weathered the storm. In fact, when he came short to Rory the week prior to the PGA Championship, when Rory went bananas on him, Xander was asked, so what now? And his response was, well, it's going to make the next one all the more sweet. And so it spoke to me of a guy that sort of, he knows he's playing well. He's got the confidence in what he's doing and how he's doing it, and that is huge. And so he was able to go, well, it wasn't this week, but I know if I keep doing what I'm doing and I be resilient and I be tough, it's going to come. Now, lo and behold, it comes the following week. And I saw a guy last week at the Memorial who didn't have his best stuff. But look, it's his first one back since winning the PGA. He had been home, been celebrating, kind of drinking in all of the success, pardon the pun there, of what he just achieved. And I feel like it's back to business this week for Xander. And so at a golf course that should suit his skill set, I really like his chances.
Resilient and tough is also what Rory McIlroy has been through a 10-year major championship drought, Patrick. And you look back at his last handful of U.S. Opens: 9th in 2019, 8th in 2020, 7th in 2021, 5th in 2022, and runner-up last year. So there's only one way to go from here, right? That's the victory.
We've been doing this dance for the past 4 years, Rick. It seems like every major championship, it is now Rory McIlroy's time to get off the schneid, to get number 5, to tie Brooks Koepka now for the most in this era. And I think leaning into the difficulty of the U.S. Open test has been the difference, because you look at the 3 U.S. Opens before that: miscut, miscut, miscut. I mean, in 2017, he was on the couch tweeting at the USGA about some rules infraction with Dustin Johnson. That won't be happening this year. He should definitely be in the mix come the weekend, you would think. He's given himself plenty of opportunities in major championships, kind of once he turned 32, 31-ish. I think if you want to be critical of Rory McIlroy, it's that middle portion of his career, the late 20s, early 30s, where he probably didn't give himself a ton of chances in major championships for how good he is. And he's doing that now. And obviously the game's in a really good spot, winning at the Wells Fargo Championship, the Zurich Classic, looking good at the Canadian Open as well, the iron play taking a step. But I am concerned a little bit about some of those lulls he tends to have in tournaments. We saw it at the PGA Championship in those middle rounds. We saw it at the Canadian Open, that second round of 2/72 that kind of took him out of the tournament. And if you have a lull at Pinehurst number 2, you're going to be in some sort of trouble. So that's the one thing I'm looking at. That 6-hole stretch where he might not have his swing where he wants it to be. Is he able to get through that stretch effectively? And if he does, I think he'll have a chance.
I couldn't agree more. Look, let's start with the fact that he's he's back together, or he's going to fix up, and they're annulling, I guess I'm using the correct vernacular, the divorce with Erica Stoll. So that means to me Rory's getting the emotions in order. But to your point, I called him at the RBC Canadian Open, and I just saw one too many left balls. And the problem with a ball turning left for a right-hander is it's running faster when it hits the ground. If you go in the opposite direction, that left to right shot, as Lee Trevino said, you can speak to a fade, but the hook won't listen. Well, Rory is victim to one that's turning left, hooking a little bit too fast right now. And in fast conditions, this is not going to be up his alley. So if he's happened to have a handle on the swing where he can manage that, get the ball moving left to right, getting it landing a bit more softly around these firm conditions, then he's capable. He's playing with confidence. But if he starts to get balls turning left, who knows where they might end up around this place. So right now, I'm always high on Rory, but I'm not that bullish this week. I'm keen to see how the golf swing is operating early in the event.
Yeah, we often find out how a championship is going to be for Rory early on Thursday. We'll see how he gets started in this mega group. We have a lot more to talk about, including revealing our picks to win the 2024 United States Open. But we're going to continue that conversation on the First Cut podcast after this break. Welcome back to the First Cut podcast, live on CBS Sports Network. And one of the big storylines in this year's U.S. Open, Patrick, is who will not be teeing it up, most notably Jon Rahm, who has had himself a little bit of a turbulent year since joining Live Golf. His performance at major championships has been subpar by his lofty standards, and thanks to a lesion in between his toes, he has opted to skip this week's U.S. Open.
Yes, Lesion 13, many people are calling that. I had to throw that in there. Mark's not the only one who gets the funny puns. I get mine every now and again as well. That got him pretty good. I'm proud of that one. But turbulence, one way to put it. It's been an odd year for Jon Rahm. Like you said, the defense at the Masters not really factoring there. Missing the cut at Valhalla, which was supposed to be a great course fit for him. Snapping that 18 made cut streak in major championships, which was the longest active. And I know he finishes top 10 on Live Golf, but look, Jon Rahm, he's one of the best players of this era. We're not judging this guy on top 10 finishes on Live Golf. We're judging him on contention runs at majors and picking off big wins. And so, one, from the fan perspective, excuse me, it's a bummer he's not going to be around. Every tournament's awesome when Jon Rahm is in the mix. And then obviously, from his perspective, it's just the continuation of a pretty disappointing 2024 and one he probably wants to put behind him, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, so without John Rahm, Mark, that opens up the door for a handful of other live golfers to kind of make their presence felt here. Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka now co-favorites to be top live golfer at plus 320. Cameron Smith, who has struggled recently on live, is next at 5.5 to 1. Terrell Hatton lurks, and then there are 8 other golfers for a total of 12 making up the live contingent that will battle it out this week.
Yeah, and as I watch this, and to Patrick's sentiments about Leishman, that was very, very good. But as I watch this, it's almost like Rahm going to Live was actually, the more I think about it, not the best thing for Live, because he's come out there not playing very well, and it seems like there's nothing but drama swirling around the area. The only one that seems sort of immune to all of the drama in a weird way is Bryson DeChambeau, because he has shown up with his attitude and he's been very engaging with the fans at the last 2 major championships. And people were telling me from Valhalla, I had him there on Saturday, that Bryson made the tournament better, which was all sorts of respect to him. So this week, looking at Bryson, my only concern really is the fact that around the greens with, the super upright wedges, I'm keen to see how he chips and pitches because not everyone's going to hit all of the greens in regulation. As far as Brooks goes, Brooks is a wild card to me, which is hard to say because ordinarily he gets up for this sort of stuff. Now, as it pertains to US Opens, he did win at Shinnecock Hills, which in a way you can draw some parallels between these 2 golf courses in terms of how fast it can play, how the ball moves on the ground. So we know he has that gear. But I know this for certain, Rick, whether you're Cam Smith, you would think that this golf course, which is similar to the sand belt in Australia where he grew up, that would make a lot of sense, right? There's commonalities there, but he's not playing very well. There's no one really, apart from Bryson, who's jumping off the page at me. And that's the reality of it, because around this golf course, it's going to identify the most complete game, the most complete mind, all of the above. And right now, the only really of all of them, the one that sticks out maybe is DeChambeau, but there's some unsureties around his name to me as well.
Bryson is able to avoid the drama because he is the drama, and that's how he lives his life. Patrick, we have identified kind of a clear big 3 here in Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy. The guy who's trying to fight his way into that conversation is Collin Morikawa. He's got top 5 finishes at each of the first 2 major championships. He gave Scotty Scheffler all that he could handle at the Memorial, and it seems like Collin is on the verge of maybe getting major championship number 3, which would be insane at his young age and with only less than 30 majors into his career.
It would be insane. And it would set up the Masters next year, not only Rory McIlroy, but Collin Morikawa going for the career Grand Slam at a place where he's finished inside the top 10. And like you said, he's got back-to-back top 5 finish there in the first 2 major championships. Not only that, he was in the final pairing in both of those. Scotty Scheffler at the Masters alongside Xander Schauffele there at the PGA Championship. Kind of similar rounds there where he hit the ball pretty well, but just could not get anything to fall on the greens, especially there at Valhalla. It seemed like he burned just about every edge up until the 18th when he finally made a birdie, but he looks fantastic. He's driving the ball as well as ever. He's the most accurate driver in this field, which is going to be crucial because the iron play is beginning to look like peak Collin Morikawa, 2-time major championship style Collin Morikawa as well. And I think the X factor for him is when he did go through that lull with the iron play, you know what got better? His short game. And he still has that. The short game is much improved, posting career best around the green and on the green as well. Everyone's talking about his 5-wood. Xander Schauffele called it dirty. He said Collin Morikawa was dirty with the 5-wood from around the green. I know they've played a bunch of rounds before Xander moved from Vegas to Florida. So I'm really keen to see how that around the green game stacks up at Pinehurst number 2, because it seems like the rest of the game is in order. And like I've said, Rick, Collin Morikawa is going to be a U.S. Open champion one day. I am convinced of it, and it might very well be this Sunday.
He even if he wins this week, Patrick, he would still be just 12 major championships behind Tiger Woods. And Mark, that is a name that often gets spoken about at the top of shows. We are far from the top of the show at this point. He missed the cut at the PGA Championship. He did make the weekend, but struggled very much at the Masters. What is at this point a realistic expectation for Tiger around Pinehurst number 2?
I feel like realistic is for him to see the weekend, and I believe he's going to, and I'll give you a few quick reasons. Number one, he's still got the wile and the guile and all those sort of things that you need to play a venue like this. Secondly, around the greens, he is old school. I mean, on soft conditions, you'll see him whip out 8 irons, 7 irons, 6 irons, and create around the green. So he has that gear. And then thirdly, pardon me, the golf course is really not that difficult to walk, so it won't put too much stress on the legs. So I feel like with his wit, his wisdom, the short game, and the fact that the golf course, Pinehurst, is a fairly easy walk, I feel like he plays decent enough to see the weekend.
Yeah, the body just as important as the game every time Tiger tees it up. Well, we're ready to do it. We're going to add another voice to the conversation. We're going to reveal the picks to win the U.S. Open, get you some sleepers, but we're going to do all of that after this quick break. Welcome back to the First Cut Podcast live on CBS Sports Network. And look at this voice and this face that we've got. It's Chip Patterson live from Pinehurst. Chip, it's good to see you.
Oh man, I'm fired up to be back on the First Cut Podcast. You know that I'm a loyal listener, a one-time host before the great Rick Gehman came in. And so to be back with the brand, it feels good, especially here in Pinehurst.
It's so good. Well, listen, we're going to put you right to work here because we're going to give the people what they want, and they want picks. So we are going to start with the very special Chip Patterson pick to win this year's U.S. Open.
We're going to go with Collin Morikawa, and there's it's not controversial. I mean, we're talking about a top 5 name on the odds board, but I like the narrative side of this as somebody who was in the top 5 at each of the first 2 major championships that we've had. And just recently, was in that final pairing with Scottie Scheffler, and similar to, what we saw maybe with Xander at Wells Fargo. He's there with Rory. Rory runs away with it, but then Xander's the one who walks through the door at the major championship at Valhalla. I could see Collin Morikawa, somebody who's around the green game, has been improving throughout 2024, somebody who obviously has the ability to hit all the shots into these greens. And this is the icing on the cake, gentlemen. When I saw him out there with that 3-wood, getting creative around these green complexes, I know you need that creativity. So my pick to win, it is not Scottie, it is not Xander, it is Collin Morikawa getting the 3rd leg of the Grand Slam.
Chip, I hear you. I'm going with a guy who played alongside Collin last week and beat Collin. He doesn't have as cool a beard as you right now because he shaved it off. So I think beardless Scottie Scheffler is just too much. He's got everything going on. He's got confidence. And the difference is that oftentimes in a tournament like this, you mustn't beat yourself. If you poll players in the locker room who they need to stay in front of if they want to win this tournament, you will probably resoundingly hear Scottie Scheffler. So I'm going to go with the masses. I'm going out on that limb. I say Scheffler shoots 4 under, and that's enough to win.
Oh, Chalk City, gentlemen. Come on, go out on a limb, please. And we are going to go out on that limb with someone who might have been battling some limb injuries for all we know. Hideki Matsuyama, the 2021 Masters champion. I love what this guy can do in firm, fast, difficult conditions. Mark, you talked about needing to hit the ball pin high. Not only does Matsuyama do that, but he hits it as high as anyone, which I think will be important as well. And when you do miss those greens, you know who ranks number 1 on the PGA Tour in terms of strokes gained around the green? Well, that's Hideki Matsuyama. I think this guy is a great major championship competitor. Some of that luster from the early season start is off his name, and I think he's going to put it right back on at the U.S. Open.
Wow, and 2 under par is the score prediction for Patrick there and Hideki. This is tough. Those are 3 solid picks. I'll break the tie here, and I will join Mark with Scottie Scheffler. I just think he's the best player in the world. It is not even close, and now he's going to a golf course that not only magnifies his on-course strengths, but his in-brain strengths, and the duo between him and Ted Scott is, in my opinion, unbeatable. Speaking of going out on a limb, let's get somebody a little bit farther down the board. Dare I say a sleeper? Chip, where are we going for someone who has longer odds than what we've covered thus far?
Yeah, we're looking for the Michael Campbell, right? We're looking for who's going to finish one shot ahead of Scotty Scheffler at the end of this. And I'm going to go with Russell Henley. I think Russell Henley's been playing some good golf recently. You just look at his 2024, 12 made cuts and 13 starts. He's got 3 top fives. 5 times he's finished in the top 12. And here at the U.S. Open at Pinehurst #2, I think that what I guess would be his statistical weakness would be driving distance. I think is negated by the firm and the fast conditions. And then when you're making around the green more important, when you're making putting more important, approach play, all of those are boxes that Russell Henley checks. He was out there, got to see a couple tee shots. It didn't look like he was way behind everybody he was playing with. And so I think that Russell Henley down there at 90-1, that's worth a flyer as someone who, was 14 years ago, the low am at the U.S. Open and has pretty good history at this major championship. So let's go with the dog, the Georgia Bulldog, Russell Henley as my flyer.
Yeah, I can get on board with that pick there, Chip. I'm completely with you. In fact, I considered Russ, but I'm going to go with Sung J M for various reasons. The way he strikes it, the presence of mind, the patience he has. And just a few weeks ago, he was in the mix just down the way in Charlotte. Now, I understand that Quail Hollow is a different examination, but it's like a major championship golf course. In fact, it is. So I feel like Sung J, who's been gaining momentum steadily, the neck injury that was bothering him is a thing of the past. Sung J M, sign me up.
Chip, I just got to say, anytime you get a top 10 player in the world like Russell Henley at 90-1, you got to bet on him. 90-1, you got to bet on him. Rick's laughing because he can't believe that number for a top 10 player like Russell Henley. I'm going with a dog as well, but I'm going with the septic tank, Sepp Straka. I love the way this guy is playing. You look at the top 5 finishes he's had at Harbor Town, at Colonial, last week at Jack's Place as well. And he has a sneaky good major championship record. He was runner-up at the Open Championship last season. That's a place where you got to get kind of creative around the green as well. The iron play is humming. He's kind of got that same profile as a Russell Henley, and he's been in the mix recently. So I like the way Straka's looking. I think he could surprise this week.
Very good. 90-1 for Sepp Straka. I'm not going with a dog. I'm going with a husky, a wildcat. What's Northwestern's mascot?
Wildcat.
Wildcat. A wildcat. Yeah, okay. I'm going with a wildcat in Matt Fitzpatrick. I'm off the rails a little bit and over my skis when it gets to college mascots, but Matt Fitzpatrick finished beautifully at the Memorial last week. As we discussed plenty of times, that was major championship-like conditions. He has a victory at the U.S. Open. His 2024 has been all over the place, but he feels like he's getting right, and this is the right time to get right. So Matt Fitzpatrick checking in at 50-1. Chip, it's always a pleasure. We're going to get you back out on the golf course. We're going to get your eyes and ears. We're looking forward to everything that comes from you this week. Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it. Great to be with it. Y'all be well.
All right. We're going to continue this episode of the First Cut Podcast with more. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Welcome back to the First Cut Podcast live on CBS Sports Network. And gentlemen, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, something that you're going to be paying close attention to, Mark. It could be a player. It could be tournament related. It could be literally anything. What will have your attention this week?
Well, given it's my week off, my cocktails by the pool when I'm watching some golf is going to have my attention. And also, I've learned from you about cut sweats, Rick. So Friday afternoon, I'm going to be paying attention now. At Patrick's favorite U.S. Open venue last year, the cut was 2 over. At the U.S. Open, remember, it cuts to 60 in ties. At the PGA and at the Open, cuts to 70 in ties. And the Masters cuts to 50 in ties. So 60 this week. With the way the golf course is playing and from all the reports, I'm kind of going because the last time the U.S. Open was held here, the cut was 6 over. Thank you, Rick. So I'm going to set the line at about 6.5, which I think is modest. And given last year was 2 over par for a cut at LACC, I'm going to say 6.5, gents. Do you go over or do you go under, Rick?
I take over, meaning I think it's going to be more difficult than that, Patrick.
All right.
I'm glad you specified because I was going to get lost in the over/under there, but I too am going to go over. I think I like 7. I like 7 over.
Well, look, either
I
way, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, honestly, because I know you guys, when I'm out there on the golf course, it's difficult to cover difficult golf. I'll be honest with you, because there's no real excitement, if you will. It's just more surviving, but it's going to be a fun watch for me Friday afternoon. So I'll be looking for the cut.
Yeah, we like to watch them have trouble, not necessarily us when we get out on the golf course. Patrick, we've got one thing to keep our eye on. That's the cut number and potential cardage. What are you most looking forward to this week?
Probably the variety around the green, the type of shots that we're going to see, right? We see Tiger Woods using the 4-iron a lot. We heard from Chip saying the 5-wood from Collin Morikawa is getting a lot of usage. Xander Schauffele said he's going to putt a ton. Mackenzie Hughes said, guess what? I'm a great wedge player. I'm going to use the 60-degree as much as I possibly can. And so just the different variety we're going to see that we don't typically see on the week-to-week basis on the PGA Tour because we get all these runoffs, all this short grass. So I'm really looking forward to, one, these guys putting their skills on display, and two, some of them looking like idiots while trying to put those skills on display. And that's what the U.S. Open's all about.
One quick thing. So, Patrick, if the putter off the green in Texas is called the Texas wedge, what's it called in North Carolina then?
Oh boy, the Carolina Club, something like that.
Right. Cool.
Palmetto wedge? That might be South Carolina. I don't know if that's close enough. The Pinehurst putters? Yeah, something like that.
Ooh.
How about this, Mark? Throw your head out the window, throw your wallet out the window. What does your heart say? Who do you want to win deep in your heart? What would be your favorite outcome?
Honestly, my favorite outcome would be for Rory to win.
Hmm.
But really, because of my little pool that I've got going on, I really need Scotty Scheffler to win because this could be a handsome payday for me Sunday afternoon. So, head, heart, my wallet's saying, Scotty, let's go.
My heart is saying Scotty Scheffler as well. After that Players win, I said I want him to burn them all, and this is certainly one of them. I want him to put together a historic season, maybe get to 9 wins, a few majors even. So in the hearts of hearts, Scotty Scheffler continuing this stretch is my favorite outcome.
No love for Jordan Spieth, no love for Justin Thomas, no love for Collin Morikawa, Xander. We're already over Xander.
This ain't the boys club, Rick. This ain't the boys club.
What about somebody getting there first? Patrick Cantlay, Victor Hovland. That would be pretty cool.
Thigala for me. That'd be cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Ludwig Oberg for me getting there first.
Ludwig would be the
first. You need that mark for the one and done.
The first of many. Well, listen, gentlemen, if you like this, you can catch the First Cut podcast on YouTube and the Golf on CBS YouTube channel. Everywhere you get your podcast, check out that feed after every round of the U.S. Open. And don't forget to catch us back here on CBS Sports Network on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern to recap all of the action from Pinehurst. Enjoy the week. It's going to be great.